Honorable Cozier Frederick, Minister for the Environment, Rural Modernization, Kalinago Upliftment, and Constituency Empowerment. Mr. Edgar Hunter, Senior Technical Advisor in the Ministry. Ms. Hilda Kelso, Project Coordinator, the Global Environmental Fund Enhanced Direct Access Project. Mr. Sophia Ansem Larocque, the National Ozone Officer. Mr. Mitchelton Burton, the Director of Forestry, Wildlife, and National Parks, and other senior members of staff of the Forestry Division. Mr. Donaldson Frederick, Development Officer in the Ministry with special responsibility for Kalinago Upliftment. Mr. Yannick Regis, the Coordinator responsible for managing the affairs of Constituency Empowerment. Members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, or listeners and viewers, a very good afternoon to everyone. A very good afternoon to everyone. Good afternoon. I also want to recognize Mr. Florian Mitchell, the Dominica Solid Waste Management Corporation General Manager. Permit me, first of all, to give you a sort of introductory background to what we're about to do this afternoon, to help you to get a greater insight of the overarching obligation and, of course, the accomplishment of the Ministry of Environment, Rural Modernization, Kalinago Upliftment, and Constituency Empowerment. And context is very necessary. I need to, first of all, touch on the fact that why we're here today and why we have the Ministry of Special Responsibility for the Environment, and we all should be able to recall immediately following the passage of Hurricane Maria and having to contend with the excess, widespread devastation that we experienced. The Prime Minister made the deliberate and bold decision then that the first step of our recovery process shall be the realization of Dominica becoming the first climate resilient country of the world by 2030. Now, it's important we understand what exactly is meant by becoming the first climate resilient country of the world. We all should recall, just prior to the passage of Hurricane Maria, in fact, most of us went to bed thinking that we were going to have a Category 1 event, just to wake up in the morning and realize there was a serious reversal of our fortunes, because we were well on our way to good socioeconomic prosperity, and we had this immediate shock to deal with. So it was contending with that, the Prime Minister realized then we had to make some declaration to ensure that we had a very structured approach for going forward with our recovery and reconstruction process. So by we ensuring that we become the first climate resilient country in the world, what we're seeking to do is to acquire and adopt a robust protection against climate change and the ills of climate change. And by so doing, we'll be able to have systems and processes in place where we can effectively withstand the shock and destabilization that we'll get from extreme weather events. And so we have to understand as a people, if we could go forward and to enjoy the level of socioeconomic prosperity, we have to be able to deal with the disruptive elements that we have to contend with. And we realize whenever the hurricane season come along, some persons can become extremely worried as to what may come thereafter. So in order for us to ensure we have a very safe, healthy, and prosperous life without too much dislocation, we have to be able to combat the ills of climate change. And so what we have decided as a country is to ensure we take on systems and practices in place that we can, one, be able to withstand and combat the ills of climate change, while at the same time ensuring that we cultivate and safeguard best practices as far as we have in a very strong environmental sustainability going forward. And so this is really the genesis of the Ministry of Environment. And I can tell you without any fear of contradiction that while we may be a small geographical space and may be small in population, but the entire global community is paying very close attention to what we're doing in Dominica. And it's by no coincidence that the minister responsible for environment just recently came from participating and attending the just concluded United Nations Environment Assembly in Nairobi, Kenya. And he could tell you number of outpouring in terms of courtesies and interests that all the global community really want to know what's happening in Dominica. And so we're really at the forefront of combating climate change and at the same time putting systems and processes in place to ensure that our environmental sustainability is well hardwired in everything that we practice here. And so I guess the minister will take delight in telling you that experience that he had in the United Nations Environmental Assembly that he just attended in Nairobi. So the ministry, therefore, is assigned the responsibility for ensuring we put in place very enhanced and sustainable practices to ensure that we have a very profound environmental pillar. And that is predicated from the strategy that we decided to adopt going forward to ensure that we have three very strong core pillars, which is one predicated on social, environmental, and the other one is one is on social, the other one is economic, and the third one that we're dealing with is environmental. So the ministry is here this afternoon to tell you about its mandate, what are some of the overarching obligations that we're undertaking, some of our accomplishments, and some of the programs that we have going forward. And so we have with us a cadre of all our senior heads there this afternoon that will really share with you and highlight some of our successes and other activities to come. On this note, I really want to take the opportunity to thank you for coming this afternoon, that is you, the media, and to really solicit your attentive listening. So after our presentation, you'll be able to interact with us by way of your questioning, your comments, of course, and some of the exchanges you may wish to have. So it is on that note, I take the honor and privilege to invite to the podium this afternoon Honorable Cozier Frederick to share with you some of the priorities for government and, of course, what is entailed by way of policy and vision going forward for the ministry. Honorable Frederick.
Thank you very much, Piers Blackmore. Let me acknowledge Piers Blackmore and also the various heads here this afternoon, the head of the Senior Technical Advisor to the Ministry, also the Country Coordinator for the GCF EDA project, also acknowledge the National Ozone Officer, the Director of Forestry and his staff, the Kalinago Affairs Development Officer, the Coordinator at the Constituency Empowerment Unit, the General Manager of Solid Waste Management Corporation, a consultant here for child prevention in the Kalinago space, the media, DBS Radio, Cairo FM, and GIS. It has been said that we are aiming to become the first climate resilient country. And this is because we are vulnerable to the impacts of climate change. But what does that mean? It means that we have increasing difficult weather conditions. They include hurricanes, flooding, sea level rises, and very dynamic weather conditions. So by prioritizing resilience, we as a government seek to adapt, and mitigate the effects of climate change. And this will ensure safety and sustainability of our citizens, but also of our infrastructure. We will continue to do this in the face of increasing severe weather events and severe environmental challenges. The PS alluded to UNEA 6, and the outcomes of this is the sixth session of United Nations Environmental Assembly. It included a number of resolutions, but also a number of decisions on various environmental issues. We talk about issues like biodiversity, pollution, climate change, and sustainable consumption and production. Now, these outcomes typically reflect agreements by member states on actions to address the global environmental challenges. The UNEA is a major global platform for environmental decision making, and UNEA 6 held in Nairobi produced several significant outcomes. And as a matter of fact, the UNEP offices is housed in Nairobi. It is the only UN agency, the only UN offices in the global south. So it means that UN Environmental Program and also UN Habitat is housed there, among a number of other major agencies. So it was an enlightening experience to have conversations along the environmental issues, especially as it relates to our situation as a small island developing state. So some of the typical outcomes, we spoke about the adoption of resolutions on the key issues, and also a lot of policy guidance. The Assembly provided policy guidance to member states on addressing emerging environmental challenges, especially as we seek to achieve our sustainable development goals, the SDGs, by 2030. There are also commitments and pledges at the conference. So pledges from the government and also international organizations and other stakeholders, NGOs. And the pledges were made on specific actions to combat climate change, to combat waste management and all of these issues that affect us. But also at the UNEA 6, we were able to launch a number of initiatives and programs, and all of these are aimed at looking specifically at the most pressing issues that affect the society, and also helps to foster some innovation and promotes cooperation among countries. Within the constructs of the UNEA 6 also, we were able to review a number of reports and look at a number of assessments that were presented on the state of the environment, and this includes really in-depth scientific findings and also a number of positive recommendations for actions by all various countries. So in a nutshell, the UNEA 6 conference really contributes to the global efforts to protect the environment, but also to do it along the lines of sustainable development, and at the end to ensure a healthy planet for those of us who are here and for those to come. But what is most important this afternoon is the conversation we're going to have with the critical heads across the ministry. I believe that a meeting like this is important for several reasons. One, I think it is important for transparency. So this gathering this afternoon provides us as government officials and government technocrats to communicate directly to the media and by extension to the public. This transparency helps ensure that all citizens are informed about our actions as a government, but also about our policies and our decisions. I believe that it is important to have accountability in governance, and so we'll allow you as journalists and the listening public to interact, ask questions, and seek clarification on various issues. I believe this helps us to be held accountable, and especially in taking actions and especially taking on decisions. I believe that it is important to have information. in the if there's a lack of information, people may be tempted to gossip or to share false information. And so I believe that this little forum here this afternoon is a good platform to give information to a wide audience. I know DBS Radio and Carry FM have a massive listenership, and we expect that the updates of the current events at the various departments will be important. I think it's important at the end that the public has trust in what we do as a government. So public trust is important for me as a minister as well, that we will contribute and maintain the public trust in all our government institutions. Without a doubt, after this afternoon, that the fears and worries that listeners have about various departments of government can be put to rest, knowing that we are putting our best foot forward to ensure that we do what is in the best interest of everyone. And at the end, we're hoping that there will be an exchange of ideas with interaction with you, the media here, and other perspectives between the government and people who are interested in the aspects of governance. And so I'm really happy to present the massive team that we have. It's a big team with small numbers. When I say big team, it means that we do have major responsibilities, where we are covering solid risk management across the island. We're covering the National Employment Program across the island. We're doing the Forestry, Wildlife and Parks Division. We're tackling the Kalinago upliftment as a division. We're looking at child prevention and how do we abuse prevention, and how do we treat with emerging young people in the society. We're looking at the various constituencies across the board. So it is a massive task that we have, and I'm very pleased as the minister to present our heads of department here to enlighten the listening public and to ensure that some of the fears and questions they have can be answered and their fears put to rest. And I'm hoping that in the ensuing conversation we can bring some better clarity to what we do as a ministry, and especially as we endeavor to make Dominica the first climate resilient country, not only in infrastructure, but also in human capacity, but also in the management of our limited financings that we have to ensure that we keep our brand as the nature island of the Caribbean. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed, Honorable Patrick. And just to allude to what the minister just said, it's a whole wide process in terms of what we seek to do, and it's have to be integrated. And you would realize by way of the program that we shared with you, we're going to first of all start in what we're doing for Forestry. But just to give you like insight, is that you realize that we're talking about the environment in context of what we are referring to as it relates to what we sometimes refer to the biosphere, which is that natural space on, above, and below the Earth's surface, where we have to contend with living and non-living things, and of course, very importantly, the effect that an influence that those things have on human life. So within that context, it's important that we realize that we have to deal with the issues as it pertains to animals. We have to deal with issues of plants, and we have to deal with animals to mean also birds and microorganisms. And you realize we are talking about a habitat that we sometimes refer to as forest. At the same time, we have to also contend with what is non-terrestrial, the fisheries, but we are not contending with fisheries here this afternoon because it's not part of our ministry's mandate. Also to put context in some of the non-living elements that we have to deal with as it pertains to land, water, air, and sunlight. Those of us that still remember our geography realize those are the elements that you normally refer to when you're talking about climate. So you can see the balance. We're looking at the tangible matters, and we're also looking at the non-tangible matters. So in terms of our forests, in terms of our climatic conditions, and when you talk about our forests and our climatic conditions as well, and some of the context, like I say, living and non-living things, we also have to look at, I mentioned land, water, air, sunlight. We also have to understand when we talk about non-living things, we must refer to minerals, what sometimes people refer to as rocks, and what is contained within those rocks. Unfortunately for us, we have to deal with some of the renewables that we can get what contains within the rock. For us in Dominica, we are fortunate enough to have geothermal as a primary means of generation for us. And I know some of the other heads coming will give you some further insight of what that means to us in terms of our carbon footprints of the country and the sort of mileage we can get in that as being a very clean and pristine country. So it's on that note I want to call to the podium at this time the head of Forestry, Wildlife and National Park to give you some insight of some of the things that we are doing, some of the achievement, and of course we have coming in next week the observance of Forestry Week 2024 and some of the very important other reforestation projects that we're undertaking, both locally and with the help and assistance of our donor country. So I'll call now Mr. Mishington Burton to share with you some of our major achievements within the ministry.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much, P.S. Blackmore. I recognize the presence of the Honorable Cosia Frederick, Minister of the Environment, and of course P.S. Blackmore and the other heads of the Ministry of Environment, Rural Modernization, Kalinago Upliftment and Constituency Empowerment, and of course the media and the listening public. Give me great pleasure and excitement to be here this afternoon to update on the activities and programs of the Forestry, Wildlife and Parks Division. As I think the PS mentioned, we started off by mentioning this exciting week of activities, and I think I should start here to inform the general public, media and the general public that from the week of March 18th to the 22nd, we are going to embark on a major week of activities, a week-long series of activities. And this will immense significance not only for Dominicans, but internationally. In fact, the 21st of March every year is designated by the United Nations as International Forest Day. This year, the theme is Forest and Innovation. So we're working on that theme, and in celebration of that day, we actually planning the week of activities this year. It starts on the 18th, Monday 18th, to Friday 22nd March. So the Forest Week really aims to raise local awareness and understanding of Dominica's forests and protected areas and our incredible biodiversity. Events in this week include an official launch, an exhibition, River and West Coast cleanup, tree planting activity, that is, and a high-level roundtable on the 21st, discussion, and an awards ceremony, press briefing and award ceremony to end it on Friday at the Cabaret. Now, this program is in collaboration between the Division of Forestry, and we have international partner support from the World Bank and the Pro-Green Fund. The highlight of the week, as I mentioned, on the 21st of this week of that Forest Week will be a multi-stakeholder roundtable at the State House, where local beneficiaries, stakeholders, and international partners will exchange experiences and discuss priorities for improving forestry management in Dominica. And that, of course, will take place on International Forest Day. Dominica Forest Week seeks to strengthen cross-sectoral collaboration with local stakeholders and international partners in biodiversity conservation and natural resource management. As you all must recognize, we must protect and promote our natural treasures, such as our UNESCO World Heritage Site at Mount Wapito National Park and others for future generations. Now, this week of activities is also part of a larger program in terms of leveraging ecotourism for biodiversity project that the World Bank is actually supporting us. And this leveraging ecotourism biodiversity project is a $3.5 million project, which, of course, is actually being directly supported through the Global Environment Facility. And this project is being implemented, of course, by the Ministry of Environment. But the project has basically 4 components: protected areas planning, and that's of course ensuring that the developmental plans and activities are in line with the principles of protecting and safeguarding our protected areas. The second component is biodiversity and sustainability of nature-based tourism operation in sync with Dominican Nature Island concept. The third is sustainable livelihoods for the indigenous Kalinago community. And the last one is project management, ensuring that the project is managed through, with proper guidelines, etc. So that $3.5 million project leveraging biodiversity, leveraging ecotourism for biodiversity protection in Dominica has actually already started. You probably would have heard on the radio that we have a number of consultancies being advertised, and one have actually started. We have the consultancy which have started for the Cabrit National Park, all right, with the Cabrit National Park, and a Canadian firm, Integrated Government Solutions, was awarded the 10-month consultancy. The firm is also engaging a number of local consultants, including Dr. Lennox Church. And the lead consultant actually was on island for the last week, Ms. Kathy Chopik, having stakeholder information gathering phase of that exercise. So, as I mentioned, this is also an important component, and it also added to the support that we're getting for the Forestry Week of activities. So basically, we want to encourage, as far as Forestry Week, we want to encourage all Dominicans, including the media in particular, to be able to come out and support this week of activities, to follow the activities, bring it to the public. We want people to come out. For instance, we have the exhibition I mentioned. We have the official ceremony on the 18th, followed by 2 days of exhibition. Again, we're trying to put it around the theme of forest and innovation. So we're going to be partnering, with a number of our partners, the WASCO, physical planning, etc. Look at some of the more modern innovation drones, and also have a sort of display, sort of fair, science fair for the school kids can actually see some of the work and the possibilities in the forestry sector. So it's a very exciting week of activities, and we really like to encourage one and all to actually come up and take part. If you'll be getting some more information closer to maybe sometime next week, as we'll probably have a press release and all the stuff as we move closer to that week. But just to invite again the members of the press to come out in full force and the general public in supporting us in this. Apart from that, the PS also mentioned, most of you would have heard that we've had, since Hurricane Maria, we've been engaging in reforestation activities across the country. And in that vein, most of you would have probably also known we've set up a number of plant propagation facilities, about 7 or 8 of them across the island community, in many different communities around the Grand Bay Secondary School, in Bells, in Menville Hall, or 1 mile in Portsmouth, Soufriere, and to produce thousands upon thousands of planting material. We've distributed them across the island to various organizations, schools, and our officers themselves have been doing quite a bit of planting around the country. In addition to that, we've had support from the PISLM, Partnership Initiative for Sustainable Land Management. They've given us tremendous support, apart from, of course, the government PSIP program in terms of funding and supporting much of this program. But we have coming up, major, as part of this program, we have the phase 2 of the OECS GCCA project. Now, I don't know if a lot of you know that, but we had a phase 1 just before Hurricane Maria, where we were actually targeting certain areas around the West Coast. Most of you who drive around the West Coast will know that, you have a lot of invasive lemongrass, and especially around areas like St. Joseph, Taru, etc., especially during the dry period, you see a lot of brush fires, as we call them, bushfires. And that is because of this invasive nature of this lemongrass. It keeps encroaching further inland. So we have embarked several years ago, and we wrote a project to the OECS. We had this project, OECS GCCA project. And we put forward that concept. We received quite about €500,000, I think, at that time before Hurricane Maria. And we targeted 3 areas around the Scott said Isthmus, right? And then around the Jimmet, right, where you see the big wall going down towards the Jimmet Strait, and then Taru, private land around the Taru area. We did quite a bit of work. In fact, although Hurricane Maria sort of, we could have done just before that, did some damage to some of the work we did in the first phase. But if you go there now, in fact, just yesterday, I was at Jungle Bay for a workshop, and we went to the look outside. And if you look there now at the isthmus, you will see a lot of greenery there. And interestingly, they had a photo, an old photo there in the restaurant area showing of that particular isthmus several years ago before that. And you can see the vast difference. The whole area was brown with cropland, and you can see a lot of work has been done. So that project went pretty well. So we're now moving into phase 2. The OCS has also gotten some more funds, and we quickly put up another project to continue with that, because these projects take tremendous work and capital. So sometimes people just look at reforestation activities as if it's a simple task, but a lot of times it takes quite a bit of work and capital. So we were happy to get the support of the OCS again, and this time we're targeting the Taru area. So the the project, of course, will look at looking at a number of different things to include beekeeping. So we're trying to look at the sustainable livelihood sort of things, so not just going in and planting trees, but we're working with the community so that they can also get some livelihood benefits out of it. So we're looking at, for instance, when we remove a lot of the the invasive lemongrass, what do we do with the residual material? As you know, lemongrass is good for me as an insect repellent, is good for many other different. So part of that project, we included to have a small micro distillery that will be run by the local communities, and then they'll be able to use a lot of this lemongrass to produce lemon oil. In fact, and also a composting facility attached to that. In fact, the OECS is about to send out procurement advertisement. They'll do that soon in the media for the facility for people to actually engage in procurement to construct these facilities. So we're well on the way. So as I mentioned, we have this beekeeping, fire management. We mentioned the agro processing component of it, capacity training, etc. So that is well on the way. And as a backup of that, we have the EDA coordinator will be speaking to on the EDA, but we have support also from the EDA project to enhance that particular activity and in terms of in that particular community, so we can have some more reforestation activities ongoing. So these are just some of the activities, and we continue with a number of other reforestation activities across the country. Just to move on quickly, we have a number of other initiatives, being undertaken by the division. We're also about to start. We had for the Waitikobili National Trail, we had an audit which was carried out not too long ago under the World Bank Emergency Agriculture Project, and we're now moving. The focus is now going to shift to rehabilitating at least 3 priority segments of the trails, putting back a lot of the benches, 1 or 2 crossings, etc., and rehabilitation free of this trails. So we're about to move to that area of the project. And of course, we're engaging in a number of other activities. The division, we have, our Red Plus. I don't know many of you have heard of Red Plus. The carbon, we're trying to get carbon credits for our forestry sector. Those of you probably following the climate negotiations would have heard right now about the carbon credits, where countries can get benefits for being able to show how much carbon they actually contributing in absorbing carbon from the atmosphere, right? Dominica, as you know, our forest is a major absorber of carbon, and those of you know basic biology, right? That it is oxygen. So one of the things we're trying to do here is try to see if we can get credit for that, because as you know, we do not have all the pollutants of the other countries. We actually doing the world a favor as helping to provide the services in terms of serving as the lungs for the earth to actually absorb all of this, while some of these countries are emitting it for their factories and their cars, etc. So we're hoping that whatever residual that we can actually calculate, that we can be able to sell that across the board. So we're working with that, and we've been collecting data collection for the last few years. We've been submitting a number of reports through the UNFCCC, and our last forest reference level, which is one of the important data that you need to submit, was recently submitted, and we're hoping that soon we know in consultation with the experts, so that once this data is clarified and we can produce that in our reports, and Mr. Hunter will probably speak a little more to that, then we'll be able to pretty soon be able to cash in and get some carbon credits from the forest. So there's a lot of exciting stuff being undertaken. I mean, if I have to go on and go on this afternoon, we probably, this press conference will probably end at 6. So if you have any further questions, we can delve into some of the other matters. But as I said, you know, again, it's a pleasure to be here this afternoon, and just to show you that we are actually engaged in a lot of activities within the Forestry, Wildlife and Parks Division. Again, just to invite you, the media and the listening public, to partake in this Forestry Week of activities from the 18th to the 22nd of March 2022. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Burton. Even I could sit here all afternoon listening to you. So interesting, eh? But it's interesting you mentioned the aspect having to do with reforestation, how significant that is, and the number of nurseries you have around the island. And you said the number of plants, but I could help you to refresh your memory. You have over 18,000 plants in stock right now. And very interestingly, they consist of exotic fruits as well as agroforestry plants as well, to ensure that we have the kind of timber material and hardwood so that they can withstand the shock of both the wind and the water that we get after hurricane time. So very interesting. And you also mentioned the pollutant, and we have with us as well this afternoon the National Ozone Officer that will talk to us more about what we're seeking to do to reduce and eradicate the ozone depleting substances used and that we now have in use in our country. But it's interesting at this point to have the other head of, well, one of our statutory companies with us, that is Mr. Florian Mitchell, the General Manager of Dominica Solid Waste. And solid waste is not just a question of people thinking of handling of garbage and refuse. Solid waste role is very instrumental in ensuring that we have a very healthy environment by way of improved sanitary condition. And of course, we cannot forget that golden park that we are branding our nation as the nature isle of the world. And there's no way you can have a nature isle of the world that's not pristine, very pristine. So in terms of the cleanliness function, we really have to ensure that solid waste becomes and remain very relevant in ensuring we have the ecotourism product of the world. So at that point, I want to call Mr. Florian to give us some of the highlights in terms of the achievement and some of the inspiration that Dominica Solid Waste is to undertake. Mr. Michel.
Good afternoon, Honorable Minister for Environment, Honorable Councillor Frederick, Mr. Lucian Blackmore, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Environment, Edgar Hunter, Senior Policy Advisor, other divisions, heads of department, the media, well-wishers, one and all, good afternoon. I guess by now we all ought to know the role and function of the Dominica Solid Waste Management Corporation, so I need not to go into detail our functions, but just to name a few. One of the key functions is to provide storage facilities for solid waste management, procure equipment for the collection, transportation, and disposal of solid waste, introduce measures to encourage recovery of recyclable items for solid waste, introduce cost recovery methods for services provided by the corporation, prepare plans and programs to address the problems of solid waste management in the state, and oversee the management of solid waste collection and disposal systems in the state. I guess by now we all are aware of the vital role that the Dominica Solid Waste Management Corporation plays in ensuring that the vision of a first climate resilient country is achieved. Many times we think of the concept of waste management in abstract. Waste management from a solid waste management standpoint covers every aspect of economic development. And some of the things that we have been doing so far, there are 3 projects that we are currently spearheading under the guidance of the Ministry of Environment, is the Enhanced Natural Environment, That project basically deals with the collection and removal of white goods, derelict vehicles from across the island. The Kalinago Zero Waste project, and improving community waste storage. And the community waste improvement storage, again, it seeks to ensure that every household within the state is equipped with a bin that could help in terms of storage. You would well imagine the issue of non-compliance. If you do not have bins, sufficient bins, you have an issue of littering, and those elements hinder or has a great threat to our marine space, especially our marine space. So through the Enhanced Natural Environment Project, one of our key elements is the removal of derelict vehicles. So from 2017 to now, we have removed in excess of 2,100 vehicles from the island of Dominica throughout the streets. As of 2020, we have distributed in excess of 1,700 residential bins for varying communities. Over 200 recycling crates. Again, the whole issue of waste separation at source is something that we are trying to inculcate. In the Dominican psyche, it's not something that is very common. We have the practice of we just take our garbage and we put it out, and it's out of sight, out of mind. But we need to recognize that on an island as small as ours, landfill space is very rare. And the cost implication for building another landfill should be in the 20 plus something $million. And that is why one of the strategies at the Solid Waste Management Corporation is that of waste diversion. And we have recognized the need to partner not just with our local stakeholders, but also that of regional institutions. And the Dominican Solid Waste Management Corporation has gotten tremendous support from the OECS Commission. And many times when we speak of waste management, we don't like to boast, but we in Dominica, we have done a lot where recycling is concerned, especially in the Caribbean region, the OECS, the English-speaking CARICOM states. What we have noticed, Dominica is the only island in that region that has a fully functional, everyday collection of recycled items throughout the island. That is not done anywhere else in our region. And many times when we speak of recycling, there are a lot of challenges that we need to overcome to ensure that the system is full-fledged, but we need to commend the efforts of the ministry, the PS, the government, for having given us support to unleash this program. We have also installed, if you would pass around the city, you'd see a nice little bins with 3 sections. Again, we saw the need not just speaking separation, but also making the necessary infrastructure, the bins available that your psyche. So somebody might tell you separate, but you do not say anything to separate. So having the bins there in your mind, you know, okay, I'm going to put paper there, I'm going to put plastic there, I'm going to put glass in this section. So we have installed in excess of 25. We have another 25 more to install, and that will greatly improve the infrastructure. So through our recycling initiative, just in December, we exported a 40-foot container of plastic. And you'd be shocked to know that over 500,000 of this bottle right there, which is, we didn't plan it, but this is 500 ml, sorry PS for drinking water, but almost 900 of those bottles would fill up a small bag. So your cement bag, you have a ton bag or half a ton bag. So 950 of those bottles will fill up a half a ton bag. And you take 8 of those half a ton bag for 1 bale of plastic. So in December we exported about 13 tons. So that's almost 500,000 plastic bottles that we diverted from our sanitary landfill. And the reason why that is significant, it doesn't come back. It will take almost 400 to 500 years before that decompose, break down, whatever terminology you want to use, it will take forever almost. So imagine that amount of material in our landfill, what it would have meant for a 17-acre space of land that we are presently occupying. So recycling is something that we have been pursuing for a very long time. And as we speak, it wasn't planned. A friend of ours spoke to me a while ago, and we were just talking about recycling as a local partner. And I was just giving him a couple pointers as to where we are, the equipment that we'll be receiving as part of the demonstrative OECS Recycle project. So we'll be receiving an automated baler, automated loading system, tie system, shredder for HDP, glass crusher, but we have a challenge in our facility. So I was speaking to a good friend of ours, he called me today, if Florian what's happening with the recycling initiative, how can we help? And he just said, okay, Florian, send me a letter, tell me where the shortfalls are. We have some partners on the outside, probably could help support for the roof aspect of it. So, and the cost is probably about $100,000, so I'm hoping that probably by Monday we could get a good feedback from this friendly partner. I will not call his name now, but in time I will let you all know who this individual is, but he's a local businessman, and we're so happy that that kind of involvement, transforming waste management is taking place. So those are some of the key areas. Minister made mention of UNEA 6, so I just wanted to highlight 2 or 3 areas in the UNEA 6. So UNEA Resolution 514 speaks to developing of a internationally legally binding instrument that is with plastic pollution, and that is why in 2018, I just want to backtrack, our Honorable Prime Minister made mention of the ban on single-use items. And this resolution came into effect in 2020, and we implemented our ban in 2018, 2019. So it means that our political directorate is forward-thinking in terms of the elements that would affect our environment. So that is one thing I want to highlight. And the Dominican Solid Management Corporation has been doing a lot of work in terms of helping with the treaty text, having programs on the 13th at 11 a.m. at the forecourt of the Windsor Park Stadium. We'll be launching our Zero Waste School initiative. And again, the whole issue is trying to educate the general public, starting at the school level, on the need for separating itself. And I want to applaud our many stakeholders. We have in excess of 50-something clubs within over 40-something schools. And almost every single one of these schools, we've had one of our local stakeholders to sponsor those schools. So that is something that we must commend. If we would look at our climate and recovery plan, 2020-2030, I think there are 2 elements in there, and it's stayed with me for a very long time: corporate social responsibility and evoking collective consciousness. So you all say I speak without a script, because that's my thing. And when we saw that in the plan, since a couple years ago, I think in 2020, Edgar, when we launched the BD Solutions to Pollution, we have been gradually putting program in place that is aligned to those 2 elements. Because if we can get our corporate social responsibility, if we can get all our stakeholders involved in the waste management process, and then we could evoke collective consciousness, a lot of the issues we have in Dominica for waste management can be turned around, and then we could have a more pleasant environment. Another area is Resolution 57, which speaks to song waste management of chemicals, song management of chemicals and waste, and Resolution 512, which speaks to environmental elements of minerals and metals management. And to that effect, we've been having we've scheduled a few meetings to meet with the quarries, because the issue of mining and elements of metal within that sector is something that we're looking at from the Ministry of Environment. And the issue of song chemical and waste management, we've been getting support through the BCRC, the Jeff 10472 project, and the project name is Implementing Sustainable Low and Non-Chemical Development in Seeds, and Dominica is a beneficiary country. That is just a few of the areas that I would like to highlight, but also, more importantly though, what I've seen in the ministry is that there are a lot of synergies among the divisions. It's very easy to call Forestry, and if we're doing a school program to get them to plant trees, if we're having a cleanup, beach cleanup, we call on the NEP. So we have gotten a lot of support. So if I were just to look at synergies, in terms of white good removals and support from NEP, we've probably removed over 215 trips of white goods throughout the island, which is over 1,500 residents and benefited over 330 communities. And we all know the impact of those things in terms of reducing vector-borne diseases, improving the aesthetic of our highway, and among other things. In terms of litter management, again, we have support from the NEP with staff provided for that aspect. And the city, I mean, we all enjoy the city, we all work in the city, and I must commend our litter crew, who is tasked with the responsibility of ensuring that the bins are cleaned on time, the litter that is on the side of the road is removed, the poor washing of the drains, and all those other things are done on a regular manner. But going forward, I mean, some of the things that we are hoping for, where waste management is concerned, is the concept of an EPR system, where the importer pay principle could be highlighted in terms of sustained financing, in terms of legislative review, in terms of waste to energy, and the whole issue of organic waste system. About 30-something% of our waste stream is that of organic in nature or biomass, and it is our intention to develop a concept that could help us deal with organic waste stream within the island, further reducing on the amount of waste that is deposited in our landfill. Again, thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mitchell. And of course, there must be synergies because one of our primary functions is to ensure, as I said earlier on, we have a very safe, healthy, and prosperous planet. And so we have to understand at the end of the day, our collective effort would be responsible for how good we and how effective we can get that mission done. On that note, I also want to bring to the fore another key player in what we're doing in seeking to enhance our environment. And we have, as part of the ministry, the project team that is financed by the government of Dominica in partnership with the Global Environmental Facility as part of the enhanced direct access to ensure we can undertake initiative to make us much more resilient. So I will call to the fore at this point the project coordinator, Ms. Hilda Kelso, to highlight some of our key achievements. And of course, we have two proposed serious undertakings very shortly that she can give us some insight on as well. Ms. Kelso.
Good afternoon. I would like to recognize the Minister of Environment, Rural Modernization, Kalinago Upliftment and Constituency Empowerment, Honorable Cozier Frederick, Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Environment, Rural Modernization, Kalinago Upliftment and Constituency Empowerment, Mr. Lucien Blackmore, members of the press, and colleagues. In 2026, the Green Climate Fund announced a pilot initiative for enhanced direct access, with the objective of the pilot being to boost access by subnational, national and regional, public and private entities to Green Climate Fund climate finance. The EDA promotes country ownership of projects and programs and devolves decision-making to local actors. In response to a request for proposal, 3 Eastern Caribbean islands presented a joint funding proposal to the GCF. The project, entitled Integrated Physical Adaptation and Community Resilience for an Enhanced Direct Access Pilot in the Public, Private and Civil Society Sectors in 3 Caribbean Small Island Developing States. This was signed in 2019 and is being implemented in Antigua, Barbados, Dominica and Grenada. The Department of Environment in Antigua and Barbuda is the accredited entity to the Green Climate Fund, and the Ministry of Responsibility for Environment is the executing entity responsible for implementation of the EDA project in Dominica, and that would be the Ministry of Environment. The EDA project has 5 components, 3 of which include implementation of adaptation projects. A brief breakdown overview of the 3 components currently being implemented by the Ministry is as follows. Component 2, a total of EC $8.6 million was received for grant funding towards adaptation interventions in public infrastructure projects, targeting ecosystem services, drainage systems, and to improve resilience of watersheds. Out of this, $370,240.68 has been spent on consultants to assist capacity building, completion of the EIAs, the gaps, and environmental, social, and management plans, and the completion of project proposals. A total of EC $5,849 has been allocated for approved projects under the Ministries of Environment, Agriculture, and Public Works. The EDA project is pleased to announce that Cabinet has approved the award of a contract to Offshore Civil and Marine Incorporated for Lot 1 and Caribbean Concrete Limited for Lot 2 for the rehabilitation of drains and culverts from Point Michelle to Soufriere. This project was submitted by the Ministry of Public Works and will commence as soon as approval of the EAISMP is received from the Green Climate Fund. The other two contracts are the Ministries of Environment and Agriculture, and these are currently being reviewed. Component 3. This component demonstrates enhanced direct access for community organizations through grants for adaptation in buildings that promote resilience to droughts, floods, and hurricanes, and that is at a cost of $4.84 million, and this was made available for small adaptation grants. 6 organizations are currently implementing projects with the assistance of the service provider, the Global Environmental Facility Small Grants Program. They are St. Peter's Fisheries Cooperative in Bioche at a total of $310,500, Southeast Community Emergency Response Teams in collaboration with the Laplane Catholic Church, EC $282,261, Salisbury First Baptist Church and Gospel Hall, EC $403,230. Jurado Eggleston Consumer Cooperative, $241,938. Monrachet Development Committee Incorporated, EC $456,994. And Atkinson Disaster Committee, $295,700 EC dollars. That means a total of EC $1.67 million has been disbursed to the community organizations, and a further EC $78,484.66 have gone toward administrative support and training. The third disbursement of 10% will be processed upon completion of the works. It is expected that most of the projects will be completed by the end of this month. Component 4. Component 4 focuses on privately and physical assets of vulnerable populations are more resilient to climate variability and change through concessional microfinancing. This will demonstrate enhanced direct access for individuals through a concessional on-lending revolving loans program for adaptation in buildings. The Government Housing Loans Board was selected and approved by Cabinet as a service provider. The first disbursement of EC $1.3 million was given to the Government Housing Loans Board at the end of last month to organize and to provide loans to the public servants. Under this component, individuals in the public sector can obtain soft loans of up to EC $200,000 at an interest rate of 2% to undertake adaptation interventions such as water management, use and efficiency, renovation of current structures to make them climate smart buildings. This would be undertaken for the implementation of sustainable building practices and the renovation of facilities to withstand extreme climate events. And finally, flood control. We'd like to inform the public that the loan program is available for the next 6 months, and public servants are encouraged to contact the Government Housing Loan Board for additional information and application forms. Mr. Thomas, who is the chairperson of the Government Housing Loans Board, was supposed to be first this afternoon, but he's unable to, and he said he would try, and hopefully we would see him and he'll be able to provide additional information. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed, Ms. Kelso. And of course, as you realize, the GLEAM Climate Fund is right across the board. It's involving public sector intervention as well as private sector intervention. So it's really, as it pertains to be very enhanced, direct way of ensuring that our resilience can be very much undertaken in a profound and complete, comprehensive manner. At this point, it is also my pleasure and privilege to give you another perspective of some of the things that we are doing to ensure we have an enhanced environment. And the officer who is responsible for ensuring that we adopt better practices in terms of eradicating the ozone depleting substances in our midst. We will come to share with you some of the insights that we are undertaking in partnership with all of the development partners. I will call to the podium now Mrs. Sophia Ansem Larocque, to share her perspective. Mrs. Larocque.
Thank you, Piers. Protocol already been established. Good afternoon, all. I am, as Piers said, Sophia Ansem Larocque, National Ozone Officer, Head of the National Ozone Unit. And unlike Mr. Mitchell and the Solid Waste Corporation, not many are aware of the existence of the National Ozone Unit. And as such, I will be given a brief update as to the unit, its functions, and our plans for 2024. The National Ozone Unit is a unit within the Ministry of Environment with the responsibility of managing national programs to comply with the Montreal Protocol on substances that deplete the ozone layer. The National Ozone Unit is led by the National Ozone Officer and a dedicated team who are in the driver's seat of the Montreal Protocol processes at a national level and are the focal points for implementing issues related to the protocol. The Montreal Protocol on substances that deplete the ozone layer is a well-established multilateral environmental agreement aimed at phasing out the production and consumption of ozone-depleting substances. As a signatory to the Montreal Protocol, Dominica is responsible for ensuring that the initiatives of the protocol are carried out. The government of Dominica, through the Ministry of Environment, has signed small-scale funded agreements with the Multilateral Fund to the Ozone Secretariat and the United Nations Environmental Programme, securing funding for the implementation of projects which will advance the goals of the protocol. Currently, the ministry has signed onto 4 small-scale funding agreements totaling $770,000, which are expected to yield the following outcomes: review and development of ozone legislation, capacity enhancement of the refrigeration and air conditioning service sector, raise public awareness of the Kigali Amendment to the Montreal Protocol, strengthen Dominica's import and export licensing and quota system specifically regarding ozone-depleting substances, phase out and reduction of the consumption of ozone-depleting substances, and training of customs officers, brokers, refrigeration and air condition technicians, and importers of ozone-depleting substances. The unit has been focused on its execution of its mandate and is actively ensuring that it produces the expected outcomes. In 2023, the unit engaged legislative consultants who are currently tasked with the review and development of ozone legislation, as well as the ratification of the Kigali Amendment to the Montreal Protocol. Additionally, the unit has contributed to capacity building within the refrigeration and air conditioning sector by providing funding for 3 technicians, including a female technician, to participate in regional training opportunities throughout the year. The unit has also engaged in public awareness activities and needs assessments within the refrigeration and air conditioning sector and relevant stakeholders. Moreover, the unit has represented the interests of Dominica at regional and international ozone meetings, rallying for and securing greater funding, institutional strengthening and capacity building, and information and technology transfer opportunities for Dominica. Furthermore, the unit continuously engages in data collection and reporting to the Ozone Secretariat and to the United Nations Environmental Programme, as these are requirements to ensure protocol compliance. The National Ozone Unit has quite a bit to achieve, and as such has a packed schedule for 2024 and onward, including the completion of legislative review and development, ratification of the Kigali Amendment, implementation of an ozone-depleting substance licensing and quota system, capacity building by means of a national refrigeration and air conditioning training on handling and management of new refrigerants and refrigerant technologies for best practices facilitated by regional experts, capacity building by means of national trainings for customs officers, brokers, and importers of ozone-depleting substances facilitated by regional experts, capacity building by means of participation in regional and international training opportunities for refrigeration and air conditioning technicians, capacity building by provision of scholarships to young, aspiring refrigeration and air conditioning technicians with a focus on female technicians, various public awareness activities, including a secondary schools awareness campaign, activities and competitions in observance of World Ozone Day, which is celebrated on September 16th, and continued data collection and reporting to various international bodies, ensuring that Dominica remains a compliant party to the Montreal Protocol. Although this may be the first time that many have heard of the National Ozone Unit, it definitely will not be the last, as we have a lot of work to be done. Thank you and good afternoon.
Thank you very much indeed, Mistress Larocque. It's now my honor to call to the podium Mr. not Honorable Frederick, but Mr. Frederick, who goes by the first name of Donaldson, to share with us some of the Kalinago upliftment activity and accomplishments. Mr. Frederick.
Thank you very much, PS. My name is Donaldson Frederick, Kalinago Development Officer in the Division of Kalinago Upliftment. I want to recognize the Honorable Minister, Honorable Kozia Frederick, and Parliamentary Representative for the Salibe constituency, as well as our Permanent Secretary, and Mr. Edgar Hunter, Senior Policy Advisor, as well as our heads, the media, our Kalinago Braves, Mabrika, good afternoon, and of course to our listening public, good afternoon. The Ministry of Kalinago Upliftment in building resilience, and earlier on you heard PS spoke about resilience, the objective that the Honorable Prime Minister set. So in that light, we have undertaken a number of initiatives to ensure that our people's lives are transformed under 4 key pillars. 1, basic needs and services, environment and natural systems, and we're looking at natural solutions, physical infrastructure, and community connection and capacity building. The projects implemented directly through the Ministry of Environment, Rural Modernization, Kalinago Upliftment, and Constituency Empowerment intends to build community resilience. And under social programs and basic needs and services, the Ministry of Environment, Rural Modernization, Kalinago Upliftment, and Constituency Empowerment, in collaboration with UNICEF, has intensified its effort in the areas of social and behavioral change with a focus on child protection in the Kalinago territory. Through this collaboration, the ministry have implemented various programs and activities in an effort to build strong families and create awareness on the issue of child care and protection. These programs include parenting programs for residents of various Kalinago community, where close to 200 individuals completed these programs. Other initiatives and activities include consultations and training with community leaders and other stakeholders. The ministry has also implemented a mentorship program which has targeted vulnerable families. Now, through the engagement of mentors and community mobilizers, the families are assisted on a one-on-one basis with basic writing and comprehension skills and social skills development, school assignments, guidance on assistance and maintenance and maintaining hygiene to include self-care and home environment, guidance on alcoholism and domestic violence, guidance on positive parenting, education awareness on child protection. As part of the mentorship program, the families are also provided with hygiene and household supplies. And as a matter of fact, our parliamentary representative has been so involved that there are days when we have delivery of supplies, he also assisted in visiting those families and making those packages available to them. Over 60 children have been reached under this program. This mentorship program has been funded at a cost of over $50,000 EC, which was provided by UNICEF Office for the Eastern Caribbean. So we have taken a very active role in ensuring that the social aspect of our people is taken care of. In terms of environment and natural systems, under one of our project, Engender supported the Kalinago Wi-Fi network. So there's a Wi-Fi network that we have in the Kalinago territory that we've been working on. The network is a standalone system made of nodes which can be taken down during storms and reinstalled after the event. This system can also be used in Transnet to facilitate communication within the community. Under the Engender project, we were also able to conduct a livelihood assessment. And out of that livelihood assessment report, we were able to undertake a workshop in wood carving. And this is very critical for us because a number of times we have consultants coming into the Kalinago territory, developing a report, and then there's no implementation of the recommendations made. And critically for us under this project, we were able to successfully implement this workshop and impact 12 young individuals in this training. We had 6 women and 6 men participating in this training. At the end of the training, participants received packages of tools and equipment value over $1,000 and other equipment to continue the work that they've started. We've also conducted a project which titled Strengthening Sustainable Livelihoods and Resilience in the Kalinago territory. And of course, we were able to take this initiative to the next level, whereby we ensured that at the grassroots level, the residents of the Kalinago territory participated in that program fully. And so we were able to plant 9,000 forest and food trees. On average, 40 individuals were employed under this project, with 55% being women. And at this stage, I want to extend and say to Happy International Women's Day to all of the women in here, and of course, our Kalinago Braves listening out there, Happy International Day to you. And this morning, the Exceptional Women Award went to 2 young business women in the Kalinago territory, and we are very much proud of them this afternoon. So I want to extend congratulatory remarks to them as well. They are 2 young business women who are specialized in traditional foods. Miss Antoine and Miss Valmont from Sensi. So we're very much concerned about our women being engaged in some of those project activities that we are undertaking. The advantage of this project provides soil health, improvement of our watershed, and of course encouragement to plant both food and food trees to improve livelihood earnings. Support to Kalinago Council. through our ministry, we've been able to support the Kalinago Council. The council has benefited from several short courses hosted by the University of the West Indies Open Campus in several key areas such as public speaking, human resource management, conflict management, business writing, and communication. We were also able to launch 2 books, and these 2 booklets were developed under this livelihood project and highlights contributions of Kalinago people to the development of the Commonwealth of Dominica. The books were developed through a consultative process which commenced with 4-part webinar series highlighting Kalinago elders, historians, and of course, I want to acknowledge our historian there at the table with us. He's a politician, but he's also a historian by profession, Honorable Kozia Frederick, who was very instrumental in the development of these books. Our youth, our women, all of them took part in the discussion. The information gathered and arranged by Mr. Gregory Rabes, who developed the storyboards. The attractive illustrations were also produced by a team of young artists. The Ministry of Kalinago Upliftment has distributed well over 300 books to all primary schools in the Kalinago territory, and we intend to continue distribution to all of the schools on island. In terms of physical structure, infrastructure, a community shelter will be built in the Bataka community, and so the construction of this multipurpose emergency shelter was delayed with a few minor challenges which caused the procurement process to be delayed. However, we are moving on very fast with this project at this moment. The multipurpose center will be constructed in the community of Bataka. This facility will offer space for community activities as well as a fully equipped emergency shelter capable of accommodating about 125 persons in the event of a natural disaster. The facility will have an administrative block for offices, a library, first aid center, community center, and other operations and communications room. The main space of the facility is designed to accommodate community activities, meetings, workshops, and to become an informative hub for Kalinago history and culture. At this stage, the site is ready for construction. Preliminary designs have been completed. Final designs have been completed. The bidding process has been completed. Tender evaluation report has been completed, and we are expecting to see commencement of actual construction very soon. In terms of housing, we are also working closely with the Office of the National Authorizing Officer for European Development, and construction of 50 housing units in the Kalinago territory will be built. To date, 36 houses have been completed and are fully occupied by homeowners. An additional 6 are currently under construction, and upon completion, we will have a total of 42 homes. The additional 8 are currently being looked at for in the near future. I will speak to the Kalinago Development Fund, which is another key project that we are implementing in the division. The injection of these funds has positively impacted the lives of Kalinago Braves in the Kalinago territory. The Kalinago Development Fund mission is to increase opportunities for low-income families, and this fund primarily addresses access to health care, housing, education, agriculture, tourism and industry, and this was specifically established for members of the Kalinago territory. The main goal is to increase economic development and affordability of housing for our people. We expect to see the revitalization of communities, small businesses, and jobs across the Kalinago territory. Now, interestingly, the terms and conditions for this loan is one you can find nowhere else on island. It is at an interest rate of only 2% and at a reducing balance for up to 10 years, and that is equivalent to 120 months. There is also a grace period for persons who are interested in applying. At this stage, I want to report that we have 39 Kalinago Braves who have benefited from this project. 39. And all of these persons are very proud because now they're able to walk into a banking institution, go through the normal process, and now have their loan and is able to improve and better their life. So this program has significant positively impact residents of the Kalinago territory. And it's not a system where you just come and decide to get funds. It's not that. You have to ensure that you have all your business plan in place and, of course, go through the process, and then you are successful. The Ministry of Kalinago Upliftment will continue its effort in ensuring that our indigenous population are cared for and protected, and that our adults are empowered in order to build strong families and communities, thereby creating a safer and happier Dominica for all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Frederick. And of course, you can appreciate the tremendous effort and contribution made in terms of the Kalinago upliftment. At this point, we want to take a pause and allow you, the media, to interact with us, to ask some of your questions or some of your exchanges. So I will now turn over the floor to questions and comment for the media.
Seen a lot of collaboration between among the different ministries. My question is to the Solid Waste Management Corporation. Mr. Mitchell, we've seen you partnered with the schools, and some of your projects have turned out to be very successful in bringing a clear message out there to the students from the school level. But there seems to be a concern with the Solid Waste Management Corporation. There continues to be that concern for garbage disposal, and maybe the number of trucks and the proper gear for your employees to ensure that the work is carried out effectively. What is being put in place to maybe ensure that you have maybe enough funding from regional or international organizations? Where is the problem and what can be done to better this?
Okay, so thank you very much for such a wonderful question. I could answer that just like this. But we need to consider waste management. So over the years, since inception of the Waste Management Authority from 1999 to 2024, the government of Dominica is the principal financier of the Dominica Solid Waste Management Corporation. And in any integrated waste management system, the end users of the service are supposed to contribute. And in the Greater Caribbean region, to me, Dominica is the only territory in the OECS that the end users is not contributing anything directly for keeping the system, which begs the question, EPR systems, extended producer responsibility, pay as you throw, a small fee on a utility tax at the residential level is something we'd welcome, and it will help improve the service. And you could well imagine the struggles that we're experiencing, but we're delivering as best as we can. But imagine that extra contribution from yourselves and myself, how the system would have improved significantly. So that is my response to you, my good friend.
Okay, Mr. Vidal, any other questions? Well, I can only say that we maybe have done an overkill of information, All right, so on this note then I will have to ask Honorable Frederick to give us some further closing remarks and final comments. Honorable Frederick.
Thank you very much, PS. I really want to thank the listening public. This will be one of many other engagements that we will have. Because if you realize some of the work at the various departments are very heavy. And so we will have the opportunity again to share more in depth to our social responsibility as a government as it relates to our particular heads. And so we want to thank the Director of Forestry and the Manager of Solid Waste Management, the Director here at Kalinago Upliftment, the country coordinators of ozone and the EDA project for your timely contribution. I think it goes a long way to show how there are synergies across the ministries, and also not only within the ministry but across ministries. We want to make the environment ministry a relevant piece because it's a critical cog in the machinery. And if you realize throughout the conversation there are synergies between the infrastructure development and also the human capacity development. Because we can only become a resilient country if we have resilient infrastructures tied in with resilient people. So I want to thank the listening public for your attention, and I'm hoping that throughout the rest of the weekend and the next week that we can continue to provide you with the relevant information to ensure that you are well abreast to what we're doing at the ministry, and to ensure that there's clarity in our functions, and that your concerns that you have can be addressed in a timely manner. So once again, I want to thank you for this wonderful press briefing, and we're hoping that we'll do many more of those in the not too distant future. And as we begin we begin to wrap up the financial year, because we are actually starting off the last quarter of the financial year, that there'll be much more we will contribute towards the new budget cycle that begins in July. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister. I too want to add my bit of commendation and thanks to the media for coming to partake in this outreach. Obviously, without you, we couldn't have the means of communicating with our listeners and viewers, so we really want to, again, extend our heartfelt appreciation for you being here. And next time, I promise you we'll be a little more stingy with the information and force you to ask the questions then. But anyway, at the end of the day, the important thing is allowing the information to go out to the public. We know we had you there for a little while this afternoon, so as a bit of courtesy, we have some water as well as some juice and maybe a bit of tea, coffee, for those of you who wish to have it. It's in the kitchen on the other side. So again, thank you very much, and do have a pleasant weekend. So you have your special...
Next round.
Yes.